Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sunday Encounters on Bigfoot Odyssey. I hope everybody's doing all right out there tonight. With me, of course, by my side is Iron Dogger. Jackie, how are you doing?
Good. Doing good. Thanks, Daniela.
Good.
How are you?
Good, doing good. Thank you. Our guest tonight is, people might recognize him from last week. Kerry was on his channel being interviewed. It's Matt from Squatchin, South Florida. How you doing, Matt?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for coming on.
Absolutely.
Before we... Oh, sorry. Interrupt you.
No, I'm good.
Cool. Before we start, no Kerry tonight. This is a time when I know you guys can pull it together to send prayers, send thoughts. Linda's mum has had to go into hospital and she's got COVID and she's in quite a vulnerable position. She's 78 years old and has other health issues. So Kerry's gone down to be with Linda, and I know you guys will send out some prayers and thoughts and love and whatever it is that you do to support us and to support, like, you know, you support everybody in the chat there. There's always something going on, and I know you guys think a lot of Linda and Kerry, of course. So leaving it out for you guys to send them some positivity, and especially to Linda's mum. So yeah, we do all hope she gets better and pulls through this. So let's get on with the show. So Matt, I enjoyed watching you last week with Kerry. I know you just did quite a new channel as well. You've only just started.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the beginning and, like, how did you get into all this?
I got into this for a couple of reasons. The main one, I mean, I had my own encounter back in 2000. I was 8 years old at the time, and it was it made me question a lot of things growing up from that point, what I had seen, and from that point, it proceeded to be just a myriad of paranormal and all kinds of different experiences throughout my lifetime since then. But that encounter that day kind of changed things a little bit. I guess I'll just get into that.
Yeah. What so it's quite a young age, 8 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is a little bit of backstory is that back in 1992, down here where I lived in South Florida at the time, there was Hurricane Andrew had hit. And the story was that in that area, there was a bunch of escaped zoo monkeys that were down there. And when we were growing up as kids, we used to see them hanging on the power lines all the time. And we didn't think anything of it. You know, we just knew that they were there and to stay away from them because, you know, they'd be mean or whatever. And that would be that. Well, there was a good amount of them that were around my grandmother's house. So across the street from her house, we used to be this big, it's like a wetland preserve almost. Since then, it's shrunk in size dramatically, but it still has a good amount of land. There's about, so if we're talking about distance from her house to where it was, you have a two-lane street. On the other side of that was a thicket about 20 yards across. And then inside of there was this one trail that went down parallel with the street. And on the other side of that was about another 30 yards of brush. And then there was just mangrove swamp and a decent-sized lake back there for miles. So as kids, we used to go across the street over there and play in the mud and use sticks and dig in the sand, try and grab, get out crabs and little fish, whatever we could find, So one day I just decided that I was going to go back there by myself, which I knew I wasn't really supposed to do in the first place, but I went. And I'm back there, and the lane was about like the trail was could fit about two bicyclists going either way, And but on either side of it, it had a slope that kind of ditched. And I was on the other end of that slope, right where the brush began. And I'm sitting there and I'm digging in the sand, crouched down, and I'm looking for crabs, and I'm just minding my own business, and I hear a loud whoosh. And I look over to my right and I just see this massive, what I thought at the time was just a huge chimpanzee or something. But it was looking like it was looking for me, because I guess it had been hearing me, but it couldn't see me. And it had its head turned to the left, and I was on its right side. And when it decided that it wanted to turn its head towards my direction, it snapped its head so fast, and when it did that, it freaked me out. And I ran all the way home, and I was super, like, when I looked at it, now mind you, I'm an adult now, and I'm still only like 5'7", 5'8", and it looked way bigger than any of the other monkeys that I'd ever seen. It didn't have a tail. It was I'm going off of 22 years ago now, and it was, I want to say it was about 6, maybe 7 foot tall. But I'm not gonna, that I want to say as an average, it was a long time ago. And I was a kid, and I carried this for the rest of my life, thinking that I must just have been wrong. I must have been wrong about what I seen. And it had this the usual darkish gray Sasquatch color that most people kind of depict. And
But at that point, you didn't know anything about Sasquatch, did you?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so
throughout the years, I did.
right.
My mom, who's just happens to be in the chat, shout out Nana Boss. She's my biggest fan and my biggest support. I gotta give her a shout out. She's amazing. She's one of the main reasons why I do this now, and why she ended up having her own encounter. So she was always interested in the subject matter. Oh. And so growing up, we would sit there and we'd watch Finding Bigfoot and all the Monster Quest and Ghost Hunters and the Expedition Unknown, all those shows that were just mainstream. It was something that we had always bonded over, but I didn't think that what I had seen was that. I'd always heard what they think. I'd seen the Patterson Gimlin film, and I knew that it looked similar, but in my head I always told myself that couldn't have been what I seen. This is all a joke. This is all satire. This is all entertainment. So flash forward to about 5 years ago. I had these experiences in my life, and I wasn't aware of the trauma that it had really put me through, not to mention my regular life and the things that I was going through at that time in my life. I'd already been through a lot, but I was done. And a couple of years prior, I had taken a trip to the Smoky Mountains. And when I was there, I realized that I wanted that mountain would be where I hung up my boots, and I would be done. Right. So I was going through the worst time of my life at that moment, going through a very nasty divorce. Didn't have very many good people in my life other than my mom. And I booked a flight, brought minimal camping gear because I didn't really need it. I didn't have any intention. And I took the flight, and I drove, got a rental car, and I drove, and I parked it. I had picked out a spot next to a river, and I was going to do some fly fishing, and then that would be my last act. And I got out of the car, and I'm walking there, and I had just got out of sight of the car, and that's when I heard all these smashing noises, and I just assumed that they would be woodpeckers or pine cones falling. I'm in the middle of a national forest, you expect to hear sounds, but I just didn't know what they were at the time. So I'm walking in there, and I could hear that there's something moving around me, but it wasn't like it was super thick part of the forest and very dense. So but I couldn't see anything, but I was hearing stuff all day long. And so finally I decided that enough was enough. It was time to do it. And I sat down and I started making my a video of my last rites. I had every intention to not come back that day, and finished my video. And I'm not to be graphic, because I know that you guys have children watching your show, but I was getting prepared to do it, and I heard a large crash through the woods, and it was at that moment I realized that I wanted to still live. Because it scared the living daylights out of me. And I was like, and it made me feel this rush, and it made me feel alive. And for whatever reason that I can't explain, I felt two things. One of them was that I needed to get the hell out of there. The other was a sense of calm that somehow it's going to get figured out. So then I had to make arrangements for a hotel, because I was not really prepared to stay out there, and I was freaked the hell out. So I got back and ran back to the rental car right before it got dark, and I get in there, and I found a hotel in Cherokee Nation. I stayed there, and somehow I ended up finding a way to enjoy the rest of the trip. And I came home, and I dealt with everything that I had to deal with, and flash forward to last year. And my mom, she had been watching the channel, Bigfoot Odyssey, much longer than I had. And I'll be honest with you guys, I would, she was, oh, Matt, you really need to check this out. And I'd be like, nah, Mom, you're silly. I'm not getting involved in this stuff. And, you're just, it's crazy, and she goes, no, Matt, I know, you say that you've had all kinds of stuff going on, and you're very empathic and this, that, whatever. You need to check it out. So I did. And I started, listening to you guys, and listening to, Sasquatch Chronicles, and checking out Trail to Bigfoot, and all these other really good shows that, talk a little bit more about than just Bigfoot and the research and all these things. And it really inspired me.
It sounds like Bigfoot saved your life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It did.
And it also became, the biggest load on your shoulder as well. These questions, and looking for answers and everything.
Yeah.
But I just want to, because you're brave to come out and say that you were at that point in life where you didn't feel like you had any support, and it's such a sad place. I'm sorry that you went through that. And there's lots of people, and just still Crazy Chris just made a comment here. Prayers to everyone going through anything in their lives. Everyone is going through something mentally or physically. Prayers, we all need them, no matter what you're going through. And
absolutely,
just to be kind to people, because everybody, believe me, everybody is going through something, no matter how small it is compared to what you think yours is. We all feel the same thing at the end of the day, and it doesn't matter. So, if people were just a little bit more forgiving and a bit kinder, there'd be less people going to those resorts, because that's
absolutely
a dark place to go to. And all you need to know is that you're there for someone if you need them. And that could just be listening to someone or being at the end of a phone. It's just small things would really get people through. So, thanks for sharing that, because that's quite a personal thing to share with people. So, I appreciate you for doing that, and just highlighting how low people can be,
Yeah, absolutely. And, one of the things that I like to say is pain shared is pain lessened. You when you talk about things, it helps you, and it helps other people who are going through the same thing gather the courage to do the same thing you just did.
That's right.
And it's very, very important that in anything that we do in life, that our mental health needs to start taking. I mean, I have to admit, in the last, 5-10 years, things have progressed a lot more, but that doesn't mean that there's still not people from all kinds of generations who have been in the dark and felt uncomfortable with talking about these things, regardless of whether it's Sasquatch or Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, being abused, going through all kinds of things in life. Everybody goes through it, and sharing that part of my life is a little bit selfish, because I know that it helps me feel better about it to talk about it, but I also know that someone else out there needed to hear that too.
That's right.
And we're all connected in some sort of way.
Absolutely. So you're in a better place now.
Oh, a much better place. Much better place. I actually had a baby this year. I have 3
Wow.
kids now.
Oh,
And
congratulations.
thank you. It's interesting. She's not feeling well today, and I can't exactly figure out why. But down here it's been granted, we don't have a lot of COVID restrictions, but
Okay.
we're having another surge down here real bad, and you can't really vaccinate a baby, so this is all about keeping an eye on that stuff. But
it's just an off day.
Yeah, I have bad days too. Like
Exactly.
tomorrow, I know I'm going to have a bad day because I don't want to go to work.
Exactly. Same here. Well, look, let's get back to this Bigfoot thing. This thing that like you say, you carried that all those years. Seeing this thing, and now it's so great that there are places now where you can talk about it and compare notes, I guess, and things like that. What was your channel? What did you want to do with your channel? What was your, what's your goal with this?
First and foremost, my goal is about unity. What I'd like to do is to be able to connect the dots and bring everybody from, doesn't matter if you're a researcher and all about the science, or you're about the woo part of it, or you're into the paranormal, or you're into UFO, whatever it is. I wanted to bring a channel that could house any arena. Anybody hearing me now, if you want to come on and talk about anything that tragic that happened in your life, come on. I want to make a safe place for people to talk about anything that's bothering them. First and foremost. And then I want to bring unity to it. The main thing that I noticed within the community is that everybody was separately doing their own thing. Everybody, regardless if you're talking about the research aspect or the awareness aspect or anything like that, everybody's kind of segregated from themselves. Everybody has their own people that they work with. Everybody keeps their information tight-knit. And don't get me wrong, I understand some of the reason for it, but I feel like if you're going to get answers, we have to be able to use the entire pool. We all have to network and work together and say, hey, listen, down here in South Florida, I'm finding this stuff. Are you finding this stuff over there in Oregon? Hey, listen, we're it's this time of year and we're having these issues with, reports of these issues with the Sasquatch. Are you guys having that same thing over where you're at? It's little things like that that'll help us get to this answer much better.
Right. And sharing techniques and stuff out there.
Absolutely. I mean, we're all here to find an answer.
Right.
We're all here to prove that this exists. We're all here to get a better understanding of ourselves and the world around us. So why not work together? There's a lot of people who say that they have the woo factor to their experiences. I can't personally say that my very first experience was very woo. I just encountered something my mind couldn't really understand. But going forward from that point, once I started getting out there and actively trying to research it, the woo stuff started happening to me. And it's all stuff I can't explain. I'm not going to sit here and say that I have an answer for all of it. I can just share that these are things that happened to me, and here's the proof. And that's the best that we can come up with. And instead of arguing about oh no, it's impossible, this is a flesh and blood creature, or oh no, it can go through portals and things like that. Not knocking anybody who believes that stuff, just putting that out there. I'm just saying, if we stopped arguing about it and we started working together and trying to put all the pieces together to the puzzle, maybe by the end of 2022 we'll have an actual Class A proof.
Yeah, it's like I've always said, as an IT person, you've got to let the data speak. If you don't allow the data to speak, you're going to have confirmation bias. You're going to have all these things that are put in there that will veer in different directions, and it helps no one. Confirmation biases help no one, but they're still there. They're inherent in the subject.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I get it. There's a lot of people, there's a lot of egos, there's a lot of confidence, there's a lot of everything, many personalities. And this isn't the first time in my life that I've dealt with a bunch of personalities. So, I get that and I understand it. But at the end of the day, we gotta put down what we want for the community and what we want for ourselves, and work together for the safety and the to make history,
Right.
because that's what we're trying to do,
and to find answers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And the thing is, ultimately, and I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer when I say this, but like we know so little. There's absolutely nothing, very, very little. How on earth can we start arguing about things when we don't have anything to go off? I mean, we can't even prove it exists.
Yep.
So why are we arguing about what we think it could be and people's experiences and different aspects of it? I've always had this kind of, approach that we have to listen to people, and it doesn't matter whether we disagree with them or not. You can't put yourself in someone else's experience, and that's the bottom line, and that's it. You don't have to believe them. You can believe them. It doesn't matter, but we need to hear those bits of information, and we put all the puzzle pieces out, not just what we think should be a puzzle piece. We don't know. It might fit, it might not, but at least let's see everything without judgment, without laughing. And, just like, again, be kind to people.
Yeah.
Because these experiences affect people as well. And as well as we're trying to just get to the story and what happened, someone's suffering at the end of it. Mm-hmm. So that's important as well. We can't ignore those feelings and emotions. We have to tread gently with this if we're going to, get people to give us information.
Yeah, because everyone carries a burden, and it may seem it may seem simple to someone else, but it's still a burden to whoever is carrying it. And unless we're able to be there and offer that support, we're just going to keep hurting one another and not go anywhere, just spinning our wheels.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry. I'll be honest. I'm a little nervous about being on. I was nervous. I was nervous to have Carrie on, and I was nervous to be back on here. It actually gave me a little bit of anxiety. Oh well, I can't help it. It's like
it's just us three.
Getting to this level's new for me. It's one thing to have your own show, but be at the mercy of another show is different for me. So look, I appreciate you being welcoming.
Yeah, well, like I say, it's just us three, really. Having a chat, having a chilled out, relaxed chat. And, everybody's opinion is welcome. Doesn't matter whether you've just come into this subject or not. The fact that actually you speak from the heart and, you've had experience, you're just as welcome here as anybody else. So,
I appreciate that. But in my head, you guys are on a pedestal. You guys are you guys are like what I would like to have just a little piece of that pie. You know what I mean? Like so to me, it's a real honor to be here. I didn't think that I'd be here so soon. And to tie back into what's going on with the rest of the story is so my mom and I, we had this great idea of let's just go out into the woods and see what's up, right? Well, it was, I think it was her. Somehow, Carrie's interview with Mark Barton from Trail to Bigfoot popped up. And she goes, Matt, we really need to watch this before we go out. Like, we need to think about this for a second. So I watched the video, and a lot of what he had talked about resonated with me from 2 other similar encounters that I had, but they were never out in the woods or anything like that with shadow entities. And I dealt with them twice in my life. So when I watched that video, I was like, okay, hold the phone. Let me think. We need to think about this. We need to be a little bit more safe. So we canceled our plans. And, you know, at the time I had prayed and I said, listen, you know, Lord, if this is something that you really want us to do, you know, please reveal your work in my life. I want to say a day or 2 later, I somehow got an ad on Facebook for Stacey Brown Jr.'s Mayaka expedition. And I looked at it and I reached out to him and I said, hey, listen, you know, I'm a little nervous about going out. This is why. And he's like, listen, man, we'll be lucky if we go out there and we see 2 orbs the entire weekend. So just come on and have a good time. Like, it's more about, like, you know, the fellowship and getting out there and experiencing it and talking to like-minded people. And so he convinced me. So my mom and I, we ended up taking the trip. And I have to say that there was so much more than just 2 orbs, and it was a really eye-opening experience. It was like the full gambit of like anything that, you know, we seen a UFO the first night. We heard howls. We had stuff thrown at our tent. I caught, if you go on my channel and look at one of the very first videos I have up there, we caught some samurai chatter on my audio recorder that we had. Like we got wood knocks on there. We and that was just the first night. The next night, we had all kinds of stuff going on with our phones. I got hit with what, you know, I call it infrasound because that's the only way that I can imagine it would be, and got super sick. Same thing happened to my mom. And what was interesting was that it had happened to me right as I was trying to take a really good still photo of a footprint that we found. Like, and we also found DNA. We also found a hair sample that day. Like, it just, and on the Friday night before, we had caught EVPs at a haunted house on my audio recorder. There was just like so much that happened that entire time. And then, not to mention meeting all these new people and getting to know them and listening to the stories. And it was just this awesome experience. And it was life-changing. And I got back, and that first week after being back, I wrestled with the fact that I didn't want to just do what I did. I had to do more. I had to do more for people who are like me, who went from that you know, that mindset of, you know, this is a joke, this is, you know, satire. Even though I had an experience trying to rationalize it and write it off as something else, that no, this is reality. The life that I always told myself that I must be crazy over was reality. And it was a hard pill to swallow, but once I swallowed it, I realized that I needed to do something more. So I started reaching out to a couple people about what I could do. Because, you know, like I said earlier, I have kids, I have a family, I work. And it seemed like a podcast would be the easiest thing for me to do. And I got invited to go on to Mogi on Monsters show, and that was the first show that I ever did. I was on there. It was late at night for like, I don't know, an hour and a half. And I was like, by the time I was done, I was like, man, I felt so good. That was so awesome. Let me keep doing this though. And that just kind of got the ball rolling from there. Now I have a show on Wednesday nights at 9:00 Eastern time. I got plans to. We have a convention coming up, and I don't like to talk about plans that I have coming up without that person who invited me to those plans permission. But I have a ton of different projects in the works. One of those things might even be me popping into the 168 at some point.
Ooh.
Like,
Yeah.
I live close enough to hopefully be able to just be off of work and head over there for the night or something like that. Maybe once or twice. We'll see.
Definitely,
But
if you can, that'd be.
I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try. At bare minimum, if I just go over there and at least get to meet everybody, that's enough for me.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think it's
So-
awesome. There's so many community get-togethers,
Yeah. We have a convention next week coming up that I'm gonna be at. I want to say I've seen Connor in here. He's gonna be there next week. He's one of the speakers there.
Oh,
Where is it at then?
It's in Lakeland, Florida.
Okay.
It's called the Great Bigfoot Florida Conference of Florida or something along those lines. I can't remember the name.
I think Connor will put the name in the chat.
Yeah, probably. But we're gonna have there's gonna be a good amount of speakers there. We're gonna have 2 people from that show, Expedition Bigfoot, an actual cryptozoologist named Lauren Coleman, and I think Lyle Blackburn's gonna be there, and Stacey's gonna be there, and there's gonna be the Mid Florida Bigfoot Research Group there. They're gonna have their own thing going on there too, and it's gonna be a melting pot of as many people as we can get together. And for me, I see it as an opportunity to network. So I made business cards, and which I've never done anything like that before. I made business cards, and I went on there and put my logo on it and put my name and number. And I opened up the box, and the bottom part of the text was messed up, and I'm like, no, these are supposed to be perfect. I'm like, this is what I get for using a coupon, man. But no, I'm really looking forward to that one. It's going to be a lot of fun. I believe there's going to be Stacey Brown's film premiere. He's just coming out with a brand new film. I believe it's called the Skunk Ape Project, and he's going to be doing a premiere at the end of the convention, which is going to be awesome. Super excited about that. Already bought my tickets. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And a little bit of backstory about me. I used to be in recovery, and one of the things that you do in recovery is you fellowship with people and you find like-minded people, and it's supposed to be a very healing and therapeutic process. And so for me, going there and just being around the people is like a rush, and I'm like, man, I just want to call out of work all week. I don't want to do nothing because I'm going to be so anxious and anxiety ridden, waiting to go.
I think it's going to be good, and it is good to talk to like-minded people that have gone through those experiences. How do you feel? What are your questions to yourself about this creature? What did this encounter leave you with?
Other than the fact is if it was a real or a figment of my imagination?
Yeah, just what on earth could it have been?
How does it remain hidden? And that was my main question, because I always thought to myself, if it was real and there was something really that large, so close to civilization, if you go to the end of that trail, which is from start to finish, it's about maybe 2 football fields. On the other side, at the very end of that, is the intercoastal. If you know anything about Florida, there's an intercoastal that goes all up and down the East Coast. And then after the intercoastal, there's just, it's maybe 1 or 2 miles of land, and then you have the ocean. So even back then, the thought was, if there's something this big and we're so close to civilization, how is it that they can just, not be found, not be real? And it was something that I had always wrestled with, because for me it was so important that I was real, because anytime I brought up the story, everyone was like, no, you've seen monkeys, there's always monkeys down there, it's impossible, you didn't see that, or no, you just don't know what you're talking about, Matt, you're full of it. And that's,
It's being
not
dismissed.
being dismissed and not being believed about something that terrified me as a child. That imprints something on a person. It doesn't matter if it's like we've been talking about. That's just like how many people, especially in today's age, are coming out and saying that things have happened to them that nobody believed them for so long. And so I really do respect that movement, because I think we need a Me Too Bigfoot. I think we do.
Yeah.
A good, or a safe environment, because we keep talking about, like especially here, this chat and this environment is a very safe space for everyone, but to really open that up and create a community that is safe for people to come and share this, because there are so many people that talk about, oh, I would love to share my story, but I don't want to deal with the ridicule.
Yeah.
And we're just basically cutting ourselves off from all this data, that will tell us more. We all have answer or questions, and everybody has possibly an answer for someone's question out there.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that I ended up doing a video with Tim T from Florida, is his channel. He doesn't have like a super powerful microscope, but he had enough power in that microscope to show me what those hairs look like when I found them. And when I got to look at them in person, it made sense why they get away with being so elusive. They have, if you look at Bigfoot hair, they for one, some of them are completely clear, and they have the ability to blend, which blends right in with whatever. Oh wow, look at that! You had that right on cue.
She's good.
You would almost think that this is scripted. Almost.
I've just got this stuff down here.
She's talented.
Very, very talented.
This is an example of light being shone, and it picking up the background. So
and what was really cool to look at it too, you could see that on individual strands, it would go from light to dark colors. It would go from having, some of them had like algae buildup on it and stuff. Like you could totally see that if this is how, to me, to the naked eye, how the light refracts from the creature to my eye, you could see how looking at it, it might blend in with the rest of its skin. That's a darkish gray. But if it had been stepped near a bush, it would have probably looked green to me. And after being able to find that hair sample and looking at it in that way, it made a lot more sense to me in my mind that a lot of people can. I still think that they have something that they could possibly do as far as some sort of interdimensional travel. It's possible. I'm not going to say that it's not, but I can definitely say that they camouflage. There's how many animals in the animal kingdom have the ability to have achromatic transformations in their skin. It's not out of the realm of science to be able to say that Bigfoot can do the same. Maybe
they could just do that by default. That's just the way that the hair is, and that's just how they do it. Like you said, and when you say how can they hide, maybe they're not hiding. Maybe they're just there in plain sight. They walk past them.
Exactly.
It's just a situation that might break that reason for them to move, or whatever.
Well, what I find interesting too is that a lot of people like to look at those types of photos and go, "Oh, well, that's pareidolia," or however it's pronounced. I'm sorry, but so sometimes it's a tough word for me. I'm tired, but anyway,
it is pareidolia, isn't it?
Pareidolia.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, our brains, the human mind, our DNA and our genetic makeup, we have been encoded to look for faces in things. I wonder why that is. Well, maybe it's because there's another predator whose face can blend in, and all we can see is the face. And that kind of thing predate, is all the way back to our genetic code as far as like Neanderthal goes, back when fire was first made. So if you think about it like that, it's not too far-fetched that we could possibly be seeing a creature this entire time. We just didn't know what we were supposed to be looking for. And nowadays we blind ourselves from the outdoor world, let alone, getting in tune with nature to be able to really identify that. We're not going to see that in skyscrapers. I live down here in South Florida. I can throw a stick one way and it's going to land in the Everglades. I throw a stick the other way, I'm landing on the beach. There and all in between that's just skyscrapers and housing development. But like I shared in my episode with Carrie, I have a place 15 minutes down the road where we just found this insanely cool tree structure that is about 1,000 yards from a major tourist attraction down here. It's called the Murakami Museum. And on the other, there's the museum's on one side, there's a canal on the other side, and on like diagonally across from it is this big fancy housing development. So I got to thinking about that, and I looked at it on a map, and then I started looking at the BFRO's maps, and I realized that most of these encounters that are happening, that people are have been having over the years, I actually took out the ones that anything that happened before 1980, because there was less development then. So if I plugged in everything that happened after 1980 and looked at where they were happening, it was all close to irrigation canals. Because the irrigation canals are a straight shot from, they're like a little highway, and all the irrigation canals, when you're standing on the top of it, it is 9 out of 10 times at least a 7 to 8 foot drop from the top of where it is to the water's edge, and it's on an incline every time. If I was a Sasquatch, I could just be walking along that all day long, and no one would ever see me, especially if I can blend in with my environment.
Right.
And
that's interesting. Yeah.
There's so many places they can blend in.
Yeah.
So many green corridors, riverways. People are getting them on the properties. People are getting them, on the outskirts of cities. There's just no bound for them. Bears come in and feed out of dumpsters. Why can't Bigfoot?
Right.
It's not unnormal, unnatural for creatures to do that. You see deers running through people's land and properties and in towns.
Absolutely.
So, if there's food about.
Well, the thing that blew my mind the most is that, I can see those types of things happening in rural cities, cities that are in the middle with surrounded by nothing but forest. But we're talking about a metropolis area. We're talking about almost millions of people in between 3 counties down here. Okay. You would think that they would not want to be anywhere near that. But they're also not going to be giving up their habitats and their territory, just like we expect them to.
I don't know. Have you heard of Ron Moorhead's, where he's kind of looking into like them, more of the lore of the spiritual portion of them being connected with the trees and actually being able to move through trees somehow.
It's quite possible. I did see that on that show, Alaskan Killer Bigfoot. He was talking about that.
Right. Yeah, I just watched that.
It's really good. I really like it. I really enjoyed it. I like how it has more of a almost. What's the name of that show where they were fishing for king crabs?
Deadliest Catch.
It has a very Deadliest Catch vibe to it, and I love it.
Okay.
It's you can see that it's real, but it's got like that, it has the Bigfoot vibe to it, and I think they did really well with that one. But I can't say that I've in what I've researched so far and everything that I've pieced together from the internet and things like that, I can't say that I see any connection to them being able to travel through trees. But what I can say is that they seem to always be found somewhere near trees and water.
Yeah.
That seems to be the main consensus, is that they're always somewhere near a waterway that also has trees nearby it. So, you guys be the judge of that. And it doesn't take a rocket science to say, okay, well, that sounds like two different things that anybody would need to survive if they wanted to live outside: food, water, and shelter. So, yeah. But I don't know if they can travel through trees, but I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out that that's the answer. I'm like, okay, that makes sense, because, if you look at other lores and stuff like gnomes and fairies and things like that, they also do the same thing. So, and I can.
Well, there definitely seems to be some connection to trees, wood knocks.
Yeah.
I think to disappear, they can just pull themselves up into trees, to get out of sight quick. Maybe travel through them. Who knows? There's just so many questions.
Yeah.
With something this unexplained, the possibilities are endless. So we can't dismiss anything because we don't know anything. We don't have any the only concrete proof that we can say is that there's something that's a phenomena that's leaving footprints, that's leaving DNA evidence, that's knocking on trees, that's howling in the night, making tree structures and rock formations all across the world. And that's about it.
Yeah, like in Alaska, I was up there and I would go out like nightly as often as I could, and my husband and my son would go out miles hiking, and we were really perplexed by the tree knocking experience that we had. And and in the snow, it's easy to look for tracks. It makes it so simple. Like it's a tracker's dream, right? Well, when we went around all those, there's no tracks anywhere, but yet you have these experiences out there that are like, that's weird. Like there's a definite tree pop from the cold. The trees pop, they make all sorts of noise. The wind will make them make all sorts of noise. Like once you start ruling out all of these different things and you're in a certain situation where all of those factors are not at play, and you have these things and it's a clear, loud, distinct knock, it really causes you to pause and go, okay, what is going on? Like it is very perplexing.
It really is, because when you're able to really identify what's going on, and you're out there enough to realize like the difference between a pine cone falling and a tree knock, you're out there to be able to you start to learn what's normal in nature and what's not. So when you have those experiences where you hear that home run crack, it's very perplexing.
Yeah. And then when you are so familiar with an area and you can watch the change in it, and you see the wind damage, you see all of this stuff, and then there's a certain other element to it that you're like, okay, I don't know.
Yeah. When you have a fresh sapling just bent in an arch all the way over, but there's also another tree that's pitting it to and you're like, okay, the odds of that being able to fall naturally and randomly in the woods by itself is the odds of that are astronomical. I like to talk about the odds, the possibilities, and when you're looking at these things, right? Like, all right, little sneak peek into my film that I have coming up. I'm using a technology called, everybody knows what it is. It's a 3D scanner, but a lot of people don't know that you can use a 3D scanner to do prints. And
it's a LiDAR.
Yes. Well, it's actually not LiDAR. It's 3D scanning. Okay. You don't have to have the LiDAR capability to do it. Basically, you take like 100 photos at a time, and you get real in up close, all kinds of different angles, 360 the footprint, and then it puts it into a 3D point for you, and you can literally zoom in as far as you can get, and super clear, right? And one of the reasons that I wanted to look into this technology was because I know that a lot of people down here in Florida have problems casting, because most of the time where we'll find prints, it's very wet and it's almost impossible to get like really good casts. So I said, well,
sand.
so I said to myself, well, let's eliminate that. How can I do that? So I did it, and I'm going to have it in my film. But
Brilliant.
when you're looking at this print, you're going to say to yourself, okay, this is in the middle of a wetland watershed area. Okay. Who is walking around here barefoot, where there's panthers and bears, there's moccasins, there is coral snakes, there is spiders by the millions, there is, not to mention, the area where I got that print was surrounded by sawgrass. Sawgrass that if you step on it or touch it with your hand, it'll literally make you bleed. So when you look at that, okay, this area is the actual environment itself is designing itself to harm anybody or any other living thing. And for someone to be willy-nilly walking around there barefoot, the odds of that is so slim. Nobody goes hiking or jogging without their shoes. No parent in their right mind would let a child do that, right? Because,
Right.
I have kids.
No,
I would
right.
never. I don't let them walk in the street barefoot. And I know there's no glass in my driveway. I make sure my driveway's clean, but I'm still not letting them do it. Because that's how humans operate. That's just how we are now. We don't walk around barefoot. So who's out there doing that? Well, I just hope that my evidence will, you guys be the judge.
Show
You guys
something.
think, you guys, I hope that people who are listening tonight and who will continue to listen into your show and my show, they just think about it from a different angle. Because if you think
Right.
about it from a different point of view, that these phenomenons are at bare minimum happening, and just think about it outside the box. Just get out of yourself a little bit.
Definitely. It's good advice. We need to take different routes in trying to get answers or try and find clues to these things. We have been doing the same thing over and over for a very long time now. So having a fresh pair of eyes, a fresh kind of mind is it needs to happen, and by showing example as well, when your documentary comes out, it'll be really interesting to see how that's worked out.
Yeah.
But if we took away all the little things like the wood knocks, the structures, the pops, and we go back down to basics, there's so little, but it's clear that these creatures exist, and there's people having experiences, terrifying ones, and it's not about proving. I guess for someone like you, it's not about proving that they exist. It's to anybody other than yourself, and that's the important thing. Is nobody should be hanging on anybody else to give them the answers to this creature. People have expectations when people go out and try and do something, and nobody, you're very lucky if someone's going to come up with the answer to what Bigfoot is. So we need to stop putting too much pressure on people and just appreciating what they do and enjoying their journey and their attempt at it, rather than criticize it or think, well, this isn't evidence. Well, nobody's got any evidence. I mean, very little. We've got to be real about this. But it's great people are going out and trying to.
I think that there's a lot of evidence out there. It's just, can we find irrefutable evidence? Because even the Patterson-Gimlin film, I mean, we've made huge strides in that recently, and people will still say that film, no matter what these actual scientists and videographers and IT designers who've looked into it and looked at the film and have completely proven that it is 100% true,
Yep.
the rest of society is still going to go, no, everybody, it's all a joke. It's not real. It's impossible.
They've even put it
And
through AI, and yep,
exactly,
it comes back.
it has. We have to find irrefutable proof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
This is
I'm not a believer. I'm a knower. I've had my experiences with them. I know that they exist, but am I going to come out and say that my evidence is 100% irrefutable? Probably not.
No.
And I don't think that anybody can say that anything that they've ever found is truly 100% irrefutable, because there's always going to be somebody who has the ability to say, oh well, no, that footage right there, that's a person in you know, a suit, and here's why. And they're gonna manipulate a fact to prove otherwise if they really want to, you know.
Right.
This is
I
just
know,
another little angle to look at this at, Matt, is
Yeah.
I'm in England, and as much as I've been doing this for 3 years nearly on Bigfoot Odyssey now and talk about Bigfoot all the time, if any of my friends here, I turn around to one of my friends, tell them what I'm doing, and I go and do stuff about Bigfoot, and they go, "Oh, what's that?" And I go, "Well, it's this creature that exists." "Well, how do you know?" And I go, "Well, my friend Kerry's seen one." It's not enough.
it's not enough.
I know we've got evidence, we've got tracks, we've got prints. There are things out there. I'm not trying to, put down anybody what anyone's gathered. Don't get me wrong, but in my situation, I can't prove to anybody, any of my friends, that this thing is anything but someone's story.
Yeah.
It's just not enough, and I just wish there was more for people to take this more seriously. But I think they are. I think things are changing. I think
Yes.
we've become a solid.
We're definitely hitting
voice.
some sort of thinning of the veil, or whatever anybody wants to call it. We're hitting a new age.
Yes.
We have a lot more people who have access to the internet. We have a lot
Yeah.
more people who are willing to be open-minded. And as much as COVID and its impact on the world, I think that was the one benefit, because more people started questioning what was being said.
Yeah.
More people started questioning what they were seeing on TV. More people are starting to be either more moral in their decisions and thinking about the other people that live in the world, whether or not it's important to make the decisions to stay home for the safety of not just yourself but others. And people had to start thinking about how to live in a different fashion for the first time, and I want to say at least since the 60s and 70s. And as much as I hate COVID and its impact on the world and the lives lost and the pain that it's brought on my family and the families around the world, there is still a silver lining to it. Because if it wasn't for COVID, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be on the show. And because that was one of the things that pushed me, believe it or not, to get out there in the woods, because I've spent so much time cooped up. And that was one of the things that me and my mom talked about, was like, oh yeah, let's go out there. At least bare minimum, we're getting outside and doing something different.
Definitely.
And and it's little things like that. You got more people now trying to be more active than they've been in 20 years.
Yeah.
And that says something. There's always a silver lining to every tragedy.
Absolutely.
You can find one if you want to as well.
Yeah.
You just have to be willing to open your mind and open your soul to receive the message. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, look, guys, we're coming to the end of the hour. I'm going to be over on Hidden Existence in about 10 minutes, and I'm going to be talking about Bigfoot as well tonight over on there, if anyone wants to come and join me. I just want to, before we end though, I want to remind everyone again, please send some prayers out to Linda's mom. Kerry's on his way down there to be with her. She's got COVID. She's in hospital, and she could really do with your support. And I know you guys out there have really can get it together when you want to send those prayers out. So they would really appreciate that. And also shout out to Gary Spikes Jr. He's back in hospital. He's had pneumonia. He's not doing well. And so I want everyone, you all know Gary, and his dad's always in here and around. P3 Gary Spikes Sr., of course, Pops. Send some love out to Gary because he's not having a great time at the moment. And to anybody you know, like I
Yeah,
say,
Absolutely.
be kind, take care of your neighbours and your friends and all that goodness. Matt, we're gonna have you back on again. I'm pretty sure Kerry will want to have you back on again to talk more
Absolutely.
about this subject. So that's gonna happen.
Yeah, just let me know.
so-
I'm available most of the time. I'll make it happen.
Absolutely, that's great. Thank you, Jackie, again.
yeah.
It's very nice meeting you all.
Anyway,
Yeah.
absolutely. So to everyone in the chat, everyone watching, don't forget, leave a like, leave a comment. It does help the channel. And hopefully I'll see you all on Hidden Existence shortly. If not, we'll be back hopefully on Tuesday. We're drawing Bigfoot, and then Wednesday, obviously Wednesday encounters. But until then, everyone, take care and